we have our health fair at Drummond, May 6th, and there's a poster over there. And if you have any questions, you can ask Jackie Bolster, our public health officer. And Tim, do you have any instructions for us? As Tim is going to be taping this, then it will be online.
So when you guys come up, we have the mic here, and I know that some of you guys as politicians like to wander, so I appreciate it if you kind of stay near that, if you would. You can use the large kind of dial on the bottom if it needs to go up or down for you. And just please tell us your name, what office you're running for, what party you're with, and then go into whatever you're going to talk about.
For about 5 minutes. So give us your life story in 5 minutes or less. So, and your philosophy about life and politics and all of that. And I'm just so impressed by this crowd because Tim and I were talking. You just never know. And thank you all for making an effort to come. Let's give our candidates and audience a hand. And this is a good reminder that what unites us is far more than what divides us. So we in Montana have a lot in common. With that, let's say the pledge, and then we'll start with the candidates. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we would like our candidates to sit up here, but if you don't, that's okay. We'll start with the local candidates. I don't believe there's anyone from a school board election here, is there? Okay, so we're going to move on with county, and then we'll end up with Supreme Court. So with the county, we'll start with the treasurer's office. And we have two candidates, Ashley Todd and Lauren Robbins. So Ashley, if you would speak first, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ashley Todd. I'm running for the Granite County Treasurer. I'm the current appointed treasurer for the county. I've been in the office for a little over a month now. I was appointed on March 1st. I was able to do a little bit of training with the former treasurer, Becky Harding, who had the office for 25 years and has recently retired. And I am really excited to take on this new venture. And we've been working really hard in our office with the supplemental tax billing and getting all of those taken care of and mailed out to our 5,000 plus taxpayers. So if you've gotten one of those fun little tax bills in the mail and you have any questions on that, our office is there to answer those questions from 8 to 5 o'clock, and you're welcome to call in. And we'll go over each tax bill one by one with you if you have multiples and just kind of explain all of that with you. A few things that I wanted to just touch on is property tax assistance programs. That's kind of important right now because they have been extended. So PTAP has been extended for application until June 1st for the 2024 tax year. And I do have applications and eligibility information here with me today. There's also another program, the Rocky Mountain Development Council also is assisting with property tax payments. If anybody wants information on that, I have that available as well. Just a little bit about me. I have been a Granite County resident for 14 plus years up in Phillipsburg, but I grew up in the county, went to school here, graduated from here in Drummond, actually. I see a lot of my old teachers here. And I'm just very community oriented. And, you know, this office, I think that's very important to be a member of the community, give good customer service. When you come through the door, we hope to, you know, be able to help you address your issues, listen, and see what we can do to help you with your taxes, your motor vehicle. 5 minutes is not enough for me. We have a new motor vehicle program that's coming out next year that we're really excited about. Hopefully we'll be able to process motor vehicle a lot faster for you, be able to do your renewals and registration, in and out the door in less than 5 minutes is our goal there. So that's something very exciting for our office. We're also focusing on reducing what we spend in our office in relation to governmental spending. Our office currently spends around $5,000 to $6,000 processing our tax bills. And so in order to reduce that, we're going to start outsourcing our tax billing, and we're looking at probably close to $4,000 in savings per year for processing tax bills. So a small dent, but a little bit makes a difference. And does anyone have any questions for me or my office?
Ashley, this is very important. Are you going to still maintain the candy dish at the...
Yes. That was very, very important, is that there will be candy and coffee. So yes, there will still be candy. You're not the first to ask. Anyone else? Anything else?
Actually, with your outsourcing, how's that going to affect employment? Will anybody be losing their jobs? Will anything like that happen if you outsource it? Probably
no.
Probably out of the state.
No, it's still in the state. It actually is kind of the standard now for most counties because of the fact that they have limited resources when it comes to employees. They're actually pulling people from their motor vehicle departments and having them process the bills. So that's slowing everyone down. Currently, we have 2 full-time employees and then 1 part-time employee in solid waste who helps us do a lot of that. So typically, I'm pulling people away for an 8-hour day for 5 days in order to get these tax bills processed. So they're not doing titles during that time, or they're only doing titles with people that walk through the door, so customers that are in front of us. So it's freeing them up to do what they need to do as their job title and job description. So I think they're a little relieved. Okay, maybe a lot relieved. And it's not reducing anybody's position. Yeah. Gail.
Ashley, can you tell me about that with the outsourcing? Because Drummond puts their sewer fees with that. So will that outsourcing be working with the Department of Revenue?
So the outsourcing is for the printing and mailing of the bills only. So I will still be working with the DOR to actually go through and make sure that all of the mills are correct, the assessments are, on there. So that all stays in-house. It's the actual printing and processing that is going to be the outsourced.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Lauren Robbins.
Hi there. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lauren Robbins. I grew up in Phillipsburg. My parents are Fred and Sandy McDonald. You may know them. I'm running for the office of County Treasurer and Superintendent of Public Schools. It may not be known to most that that office is a combined position. However, in a small district sometimes, or a small town, you may not always find people who are qualified for both. So we've been contracting that out for the last, a fair bit of time. But with my education degree, I'm able to fulfill that role in its entirety as well. I'm an educator in Phillipsburg currently. I have worked in schools all across Southwest Montana, so I'm fairly confident in my knowledge in that aspect. I've also been a small business owner, and with my small business, I was the primary person responsible for all the financial aspects of that. And in that time that I owned my business, I was able to see revenue grow, not just a small portion, but a fairly significant amount each year. I've also had other careers in my day where I have been a wildland firefighter. I have worked with groups of up to 20 people leading them in and out of high stress situations. So being able to communicate effectively has been something that I have, or I would like to consider myself having honed over the last few years or so. I also have a very rambunctious 4-year-old daughter. So we are just trying to find the peace in the chaos with that. Another thing too, like I mentioned, I have done a ton of things. I worked for a multi-million-dollar archery company at one point doing the books for that as well. I was also the chairman of the Dillon J.C. Rodeo Committee, and that's dealing with contracts of anywhere from $50,000 and up. So I'd like to think that I have a fairly good sense of finances. I believe in fiscal responsibility. I have my own personal finances are in impeccable shape. And so I like to see where numbers flow. I like to make sure that things add up. And so that's something that I can definitely bring to this office. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Clerk of Court, Carol Bohrnsen. Carol loves giving speeches. I don't know if you knew that.
Hi, my name's Carol Bohrnsen. For anybody who doesn't know me, I'm currently running for the Clerk of Court. Right now, I'm unopposed. I've been doing it for, I think this is my 5th term. I think everybody pretty much knows me, so I'm not going to talk about myself. We have changes coming upstairs. We have, as you know, our district judge is not running this year, Judge Dayton. Jeff Dahood from Anaconda will be putting his name in the hat, and I think he's still running unopposed. So that's good. I got a full-time deputy here this last year. The commissioners allowed me to hire a full-time deputy. All my other deputies were part-time, so I got Mackenzie Prince on board. She's doing great things. And that's about, we're getting an elevator. So all the people that wants to be excused for jury because they can't climb the stairs, you can no longer use that excuse. And then in our office, we're getting a couple of new computer systems. We're going with the statewide full court enterprise, and e-filing is coming down the pike next month. We'll be on board with that. And I just want to say that if you come into my office, you're either being sued by your neighbor, or you're suing your neighbor, you're filing for divorce, or getting served for divorce, or you've been charged with a crime. So I want your vote, but I don't want your business. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. County Commissioner, District 3, Elena Gagliano.
I'm sorry?
You're up for County Commissioner, District 3.
I tried for that, but I didn't qualify for that.
Oh, I saw your name in the Secretary of State's website, so.
No, see, I could have, because I do own property in Georgetown Lake area,
right.
But I didn't qualify. Living there 3 months, 4 months of the year didn't do it. But I'm running for House District 76. Would you like me?
Okay, we'll catch you in just a few minutes. Thank you, Elena, for clarifying that. Yeah.
Thank you for
asking
me to come, though.
Oh, we're glad you came. So, Paul Kulaski.
Hi, my name's Paul Kulaski, and for people who don't know me, I was born and raised up in Phillipsburg. I'm 5th-year rancher out there on Rock Creek, west of Phillipsburg. My family homesteaded the property in 1889, so we've been there for a while. I graduated high school in Phillipsburg in 2000. After high school, I went to work on the electrical construction world and the road construction world for quite a while. We finally moved back to Phillipsburg in 2013, and that's when we took over the family ranch. And so we have been out there for the last 8 years, I think now is what it is. And also we have 3 kids. I got a 13-year-old daughter and boys of 10 and 7, so they keep me pretty busy. I'm running for county commissioner because of the fast changes that are happening to our county. I don't know so much change on this side with influx of people moving in, but definitely on the south end of the county, there's been a lot of, since COVID, a lot of people moving in. And I want to make sure that we keep our hometown values that has made Granite County for the last 100+ years. Taking care of, the agricultural people. And I mean, it breaks my heart to see subdivisions and ranches that have been there for 100 years plus get cut up and sold off. And so I'm going to run for county commissioner to try to keep the hometown roots going and take care of the people that have been here for generations. I guess I guess anyone got any questions? Nope.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, thank you.
Representative for House District 76, Dave Kesler.
Oh boy. You got it, Dave. I was hoping I'd go last alphabetically. I'm Dave Kesler, grew up in Phillipsburg, 51 years old. I'm the 3rd generation in the Phillipsburg Valley on the same ranch, raised in the 4th generation. She's in school in the same classroom that she went to kindergarten in the same room my dad did. That's how deep my roots are. Went off to college, to Rick's College in Rexburg for 4 years, studied mechanics, welding and machinist, and I've been doing that, and carpentry, mechanic work, all that since. Run a farm for Granddad in the Deer Lodge Valley for about 10 years. Now I'm back on the Phillipsburg place, so my roots are deep here. This is my home, and it matters to me. The biggest reason I'm running, and John, I like you, but your voting record sucks. I've got 4 pages printed off of how he voted in ways that don't fit my values and I don't believe our values. 2 out of 3 votes on the House floor to keep gay porn in schools. Voted against Second Amendment rights. Voted to double the amount counties can raise the property taxes. Then voted against the special session. Then voted against giving rebates. I can't handle that. I can't do it anymore. We tried to run a bill to require a warrant to remove a child from their home if it's not an emergency. There were 2 votes against it. John was one. We tried to pass a bill, Senate Bill 250. It was against reunification, it's called. It mirrors Caden's law that Biden passed. Maybe the only good thing he ever did in my mind. Caden was a little girl whose parents got divorced. Dad was abusive. Mom got the kid. Dad sued for reunification, got Caden, and killed her. We ran that law in Montana. It had to be adopted by the state of Montana to get $20 million for adopting that law and protect our kids. Voted against it. Voted against reviving it out of committee. Stuff like that I just can't take. I like John. He's a good guy, but I can't do that anymore. I've got roots that are deep here. I've got an 11-year-old daughter. Those of you that know me know that I'm raising her alone, and I'm doing a darn good job with her. I think you teach her. And I don't think you'd have any complaints about the kid. She's a darn good kid. Straight A's, high honor roll, perfect attendance. She's doing great. With property taxes, they're insane. Mine went up 50%. I've talked to Chris Dahl here in the valley. His went up 200%. And Jim Wagerman called me from Deer Lodge the other day, and he said he does taxes for people. He did 2,000 people's taxes, and he has property taxes that went up 200%. That's unacceptable. Then, just to add insult to injury, John carried and passed a bill to give everybody in state government a raise of either $1.50 or 4% per hour, whichever is greater. We're struggling to make ends meet. The gallon of milk went up $3. Eggs are up $2, and we're giving everybody at the state level a raise. I don't think the county levels got that, but the state levels did. There's a few things I can say that my opponents can't. I've never taken a dollar from a lobbyist. I've never been a lobbyist, and I never will. And I never will take lobbyist money. I actually live in the county that I represent. I don't vote absentee. My ballot isn't mailed to Helena for me to fill it out. I actually live here. This is my home. I'm fighting to protect my home. I'm fighting to protect this school over here and the school up there. I'm fighting to protect our children, because if we get property taxes down, we get things straightened out with the woke nonsense, the Marxist theories that they're trying to push. What's it matter if our kids are already screwed up and gone? We've got to get this right to protect our kids. And I'm endorsed by the Montana Shooting Sports Association, the Montana Conservative Alliance, Montana's for Limited Government, Sherm Anderson, Charlie Park, Chris Stahl, and a whole bunch of other locals. Sherm's the biggest employer in 5 counties, and he's going to back me. That tells you a lot, I think. And John, I'm not trying to attack you. I think you're a good guy, but your voting record is insane. So, anybody got any questions?
Thank you, Dave. Elena, now's your chance. Or, oh, okay.
Ladies first.
Elena.
And I am standing up.
I was.
That's an old joke.
Oh. Hey, listen, I've got a big mouth. Anybody can hear me, not?
She's okay.
Okay. All right. First of all, raise your hand if you've lived here for over 30 years and you don't know me. Elena Gagliano, Elena Ingram, Mata? Raise your hand. No. Everybody knows me. Some not too happy because I make it a habit, just like my husband, Dick Mata, in keeping an eye on our local officials, public appointees and elected, to make sure they do things right and they follow our constitutional right for public participation and public information. Too much backdoor going on. And it's not just this county, it happens to be a lot of counties. The pandemic really did a tune. There are 2 Republicans that are running. I'm running as a libertarian because I believe voting is a right and you're entitled to a choice. And if somebody didn't step up to the plate, the primary, you'd have 1 Republican, and you're going to be stuck with him, whether you like it or not. So I've always stepped up to the plate whenever I saw 1 person running, just to give people a choice and let the other guy run for his money, run for his seat, give him a chance. The one thing that I abide by, and that's the Constitution of the United States and the Montana Constitution, as written, not annotated, because that's what the attorneys like to play games with in the courts, the annotated living copy. I don't care for that. Back in 1994, I met a legislator here in Montana, changed my whole attitude. I still have his card to this day, and I'm going to read it to you because this should answer all your questions. Now, any questionnaires I get, and after the primary for the general election. If yes to any of the following, I'll be voting no. Would it affect or diminish private ownership of anything? Would it cost the individual anything? Permit, money, tax, fee, freedom? No. Would it require permission in any form? Would it cause any growth in government or bureaucracy? And I definitely don't like federal bureaucracy or any regulatory agencies. Would it add any new public employees? And finally, would it run counter to the Constitution, federal or state, in any way? So that's what you can count on. I do not campaign to the right or say all the things you want me to say, and then after I get elected, goes the other way. That's not me. I'm up front. What you see is what you get. And I want to thank the library and Sue for inviting me. And I also want to thank Gail, because I have to say, Gail, you're doing a damn good job with your new website in keeping people appraised of what you're doing, meetings, events, and I wish the rest of the county takes a lesson from it. So, that's it. You got any damn questions that you want me to answer? Okay. Nice meeting you again. Thank you all.
John Fitzpatrick.
Fire.
Thank you. I appreciate the fine attendance at today's event. I'm John Fitzpatrick. I'm currently the representative from House District 77, which includes most of Deer Lodge County and all of Granite County. Now, the district boundaries were changed in 2022 by the Redistricting Commission. Most of Deer Lodge County was taken away from me and added to Silver Bow, and they grafted on all of Powell County, Seeley Lake, and the Canyon Creek area near Helena to make up what is now which will be House District 76. When I started the campaign in 2022 to represent this area, I started it right here in Drummond. And it ended about 6 months later in a trailer court outside of Fairmont Hot Springs. I talked to thousands of people, and I learned an awful lot about this area and what was concerning people. In Granite County, there were two very, very consistent themes. The first was that people, particularly those living in Drummond and Phillipsburg, were very concerned about the state of their infrastructure in the communities. And as the day that we had one of these forums in Phillipsburg was the day the water line from Fred Burr Lake broke. It brought into focus the importance of infrastructure to local communities to me. The second thing that I consistently heard was that the people in Granite County were sick and tired of being represented by an Anaconda Democrat for whom Granite County was at best an afterthought. Well, I took that into consideration when I went to the legislature. I ran on the campaign that I had the experience to get things done, and I delivered. My legislation is pumping almost $20 million into Granite County. $17 million is for the benefit of agriculture, funding repairs at East Fork Dam and repairs on the Allendale ditch system here in the valley. Over $1 million is going to Phillipsburg for water and sewer, and about $850,000 was appropriated to Drummond for the wastewater system and to fix the bridge on South Main. Now, I'm a businessman, and I approach the legislature as a business. I know how to conduct legislative business, and that's why southwestern Montana, and I include in that Silver Bow, Deer Lodge, and Beaverhead counties, is $300 million better off than they were 2 years ago. And notwithstanding that record of success, I'm being criticized because I'm, quote, not conservative enough. Well, I found it interesting, the comments that my opponent made. He said that I voted against rebates. You better go back and take a look. I voted for all of the tax rebates. He's critical of the fact that I carried the pay plan bill for state employees. Well, state employees provide a very valuable function. Those are the folks that plow the roads when the snow gets bad. Those are the people that run the prison in Deer Lodge. I can tell you this, when I was running for office, the guards at Montana State Prison were making $16 an hour. 40% of the correctional officer positions were vacant on the 1st of January in 2023. As a result of that pay raise, which finally brought them up above the level of McDonald's, most of those correctional officers' positions have been filled. And I got to tell you, taking care of the prison is an extremely important thing, because if you don't take care of the prison and you have an incident, which is a polite word for a riot, and people get hurt, what happens next? The ACLU walks into the room and tells the state of Montana, if you don't fix this situation immediately, we're going to sue. And when they sue, the result is always the same: turn the dirtbags out on the street. When we appropriate money to take care of Montana State Prison, we're appropriating money to protect you folks. I'm proud of the legislation that I carried, and my conservative principles are as deep as any in this room. If you take a look at the website done by the Montana Free Press, which is simply a statistical analysis, not a scoreboard, it will show you that I voted with the Republican caucus 91% of the time, about average for a Republican legislator. Now, Mr. Kesler has been touting the fact that I have a decent score or a high score on the AFL-CIO scorecard. They scored 7 bills, 6 of which have absolutely nothing to do with unions. 2 were infrastructure bills. And unions like infrastructure bills because it puts people to work. 2 bills dealt with unemployment insurance, 1 bill dealt with public sector pensions, and 1 was an education bill. Only 1 of those 7 bills was in fact a union bill. Then he touts his support from the Montana Conservative Alliance. The Montana Conservative Alliance is no such thing. It's Roger Koopman, a Bozeman-based extremist, who was a failed legislator, but now has decided that he is the arbiter of what is conservative in Montana. When Roger Koopman was a legislator in 2005 and 2007, he introduced 35 bills and managed to pass 3, 8.6%, or put it in batting average terms, 86. And this guy is trying to tell people who's conservative. He put out his scorecard. He opposed 27 bills. Virtually every one of those bills was carried by a Republican. 26 of them passed. And they passed by an average vote of 118 to 29. Since there were only 48 Democrats in the legislature, 70 Republicans on average were voting against Mr. Koopman and his extremist agenda. Now, I could talk at length about his extremist agenda, but probably the highlight is that he has decided that a good conservative will vote against House Bill 2, which is the state budget. We're supposed to shut down the prison, shut down Warm Springs, shut down government in Helena. That bill also funds the public schools, it funds the hospitals, the nursing homes. All of that goes to the wayside because a conservative is opposed to the state budget. That is absolute nonsense. And that form of conservatism is destructive to our communities, not helpful. You think about this situation in this county. If Medicaid wasn't coming through House Bill 2, that hospital in Phillipsburg would be closed. If we didn't have state money through House Bill 2 funding the schools here and in Phillipsburg, where about 68% of their revenue comes, those schools closed down. You want to fund those locally? You can't do it. That House Bill 2 is critical to the operation of this state, and it is important in everybody's lives. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, John. Senate District 38, Becky Beard.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. It is a pleasure and an honor to get to talk to you and get to know some new people with this newly defined district, Senate District 38. It goes from Sealy Lake down to Whitehall, over to Boulder, and then back to, as you heard, Canyon Creek and Marysville. It's quite an interesting journey. I've got about 4,000 miles on our vehicles, just running around, putting up signs and knocking on doors. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad to be here. I've been in the sessions now for 4 terms, the first 3 as a representative of House District 80. Then I got booted over to the Senate to fulfill the final 2 years of my predecessor's term there. So now I'm running again in a totally new district. I got into this race initially because I did a little job called water and wastewater consulting for rural communities around the state of Montana. So this infrastructure, as you've heard, is critically important, and it's very expensive because we have a lot of regulations and how-highs to meet with getting these systems put in place. And I was privileged to get to work for the town of Drummond and other communities that I would go and talk to, and I would tell them how much their increases were going to have to be for their ability to flush the toilet. $75, $95. And I'm talking about rural communities in Montana where a lot of folks have fixed incomes. And I would call my congressional delegations, I'd call my legislators, and I'd say, this can't be happening. People can't afford this. And then I would go up to the state offices and talk to, the department heads. They can't afford this. You've got to come up with a better way to install these programs, these improvements. And I was finally told, it's all political. So my legislator, my representative, stopped by my house, and he said, I just got your letter. And I said, why can't you do anything about this? And he said, I'm termed out. Why don't you run? I said, what? So here I am, 8 years later, running for this glorious new district with all the priorities that we have in the state of Montana, and there are many. Before I tell you some of my personal priorities, I just want to let you know how conservative I am. I'm socially and fiscally conservative. I vote probably within the top 10% of 150 legislators in the state of Montana. I have been endorsed by the Montana Chamber of Commerce's Champion of Business, the Montana Shooting Sports Association, the Montana Family Foundation, which I got 100% endorsement, the Americans for Prosperity, second highest score, 99%, American Conservative Union, CPAC, only a 94, the NRA, Second Amendment, I got an A rating, and just recently I got the Montana Farm Bureau endorsement. So agriculture is one of my highest priorities, and that dates back to I'm 5th generation here in Montana. My daughter is 6th, but then now she moved to northern Arizona. So I'm 5th generation Montanan. We have a lot of important hurdles and goals, but the primary thing is we want to keep Montana, Montana. And that boils down to maintaining an agricultural community with mom and pop shops that can keep their doors open because we have a friendly business environment. Finally, I'm on the tax committee. I've been talking to a lot of people across the state of Montana because did anybody notice a tax increase, property tax increase? Well, mine was 54%. Over in Elliston, I got market rated with the Helena market values. But we are currently working on ways to mitigate these property tax increases because constitutionally, and thank you, Elena, for bringing up the Constitution, we are required to base our property taxes on the market value of your property. So when you have people moving into the state, buying up the available properties, when we have local governments who have the inability to zone for additional housing developments and multifamily structures, we have a depleted supply of homes. And that's driving the costs up. And then everybody gets comparable appraisals, and voila, we're faced with this. So we are looking at ways to mitigate property taxes for future years. We need to do that. But I can say in my most recent session up in the legislature, I was part of taking our tax hits on Montanans down by $1 billion. That includes one of the Senate bills that I carried and got passed, taking our income tax level from 6.5 to 5.9. We had a lot of successes with corporations taxes, not a lot of successes, but enough to be a business-friendly environment. We have increased levels for the business equipment taxes. So we are working on the overall picture. This one came up and spanked us, and we are going to get after it and get it reduced for Montanans, whether it's looking at a homestead, some kind of a homestead credit, or just a comprehensive look at what we can do that will be constitutionally eligible. So I'm also a big proponent of education choice in the state of Montana. I think parents know better than bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., what we need to do in teaching our children. We need to up the test scores in this state. So I am very much in favor of educational choice. I do not want a single child to fall through the cracks in the state of Montana and not reach their potential. So, any questions? I'd certainly appreciate you contacting me. My contact information is in my brochure. Give me a call, rattle my cage. I would be pleased to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Jeremy Mygland is also running for Senate District 38.
Thank you. This actually isn't notes. I just have to have something in my hand, so I'll pretend to look at them once in a while. So I'm Jeremy Mygland. I'm running for House District 38. I am born and raised. I'm also fifth generation, and it's hard to understand for people that have moved here that like Montana, love Montana, right? Montana becomes part of you, and so I really appreciate Dave the way he pointed out. Montana really becomes part of you. So I am fifth generation. I was born on the High Line, north of Hingham, in between Chester and Havre on a small grain farm. I've been in Clancy area for 25 years, Helena, Clancy area. My wife is here. She never hardly gets a chance to come along, so that is my precious, adorable wife, Alicia. We have an 11-year-old son, Isaac Mygland, and he got to learn how to change a tire today on the side of the road. So that's good. I have 5 businesses. I did sell the concrete part, but me and my wife started a general construction business together. When we first got married, that went into a concrete business, that went into excavating, developing, and I bought the lumberyard in Deer Lodge, RNC Lumber. So what I want to point out, it's going to take a lot of leadership coming up this next session because of the redistricting. They say we're going to lose at least 14 seats. With the property tax fiasco, it's probably going to be more. The Democrats are going to run on that, and they're going to get a lot of votes. So I hope we keep the majority. We should. I hope so. But so anyways, leadership's going to matter because it's going to be a lot tighter this time, and that's what I'm good at. If you have had a business and run employees, that's a challenge. And we've employed, I think right now we employ 30, 40, 50, 16, close to 20 now, but it usually runs between, when I had the full construction business and the lumberyard, it was running between 20 and 25. So leadership is going to matter, especially this next session, and that's what I'm good at. And if you've ever run a business, you would know that if you've had employees. I have 4 priorities: property taxes, property taxes, property taxes, convention estates. When we're done with that, we're going to talk about property taxes. We're going to get them fixed. So, and me and Becky are both very conservative, but, and John. I'm sure he's fine. I don't know him that well, but they were on in legislature and didn't address property taxes. They both voted against the special session to address the property taxes. It's not getting addressed, and I don't think they get a third chance to ignore it. That's my personal opinion on property taxes. So we will get them addressed. I'm sick of people, people are losing their homes, especially elderly. That's who I really feel sorry for, is people on fixed incomes and older people trying to live off Social Security. How are you supposed to retire when next assessment might go up another 40-50% if we don't stop the bleeding? So first we're going to stop the bleeding, then we're going to work on getting our property taxes decreased. I am sick. People keep saying, and I've talked to legislatures. I went to a lot of the tax meetings in several different counties. If you remember that was kind of a big fiasco. And, it's just a bunch of finger pointing. County commissioners are getting a lot of the heat, and it's not their fault. It's the legislatures that should have addressed this in the first place before it hit. That's whose fault it is. That's who you need to point the fingers at. And, a lot of the legislatures I talked to, they said, well, the problem is you guys just need to vote better. Well, I agree on that. They don't belong to have a third chance. So I would definitely agree on that. But anyways, Convention of States is another one. Real quick, I'll give you a story about, I'm not a politician. I do not like this at all. I don't like politics. But I'm not going to give the boy this country, not the way it's going. It just ain't going to happen. So where it started is my whole political career. I sent 2 trucks. I went out on a convoy to D.C. with the vaccine. I don't care if you got the vaccine. I care about your freedoms. I care about the pensions that got took from the military. I care about the hospital workers that got fired. That's what I care about, is the freedoms. I don't care about the vaccines, right? Got back, and I threw a Freedom is Nonpartisan rally. So I went to Tesler's office, and I said, look, Rosendale and Danes, they have something to say about our freedoms. And I explained the same thing. This has nothing to do with the vaccine. Nothing at all. It has to do with our freedoms. Does Tesler have anything to say about our freedoms? He doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. I said, well, then give him a message and tell him to get his stuff out of my office. That's where it started. So I was running against Tester. Then Rosendale signed up, and he's doing what he's supposed to, and he's very effective. We're very similar. So it's like, I didn't want to go to that hole anyways. So I can still fight the federal government, and that's a Convention of States, and I think it's way past time with the federal overreach. If you're against it and it's not time yet, then when? That's a question I have for you. When's it time? The IRS illegally took background checks from the gun shop in Great Falls, if you didn't hear about that. The FBI can't get in there, so they use the IRS to take those background checks, which is, they have no right to those. ATF's the only one that has a right to those, to even see them. They took them anyways, so it was just a fiasco. So when they come to your house and get your guns, I'm not going to let that happen. So anyways, I guess those are my priorities. I guess so. I'd love to have some questions, I guess. Elena.
Article 5 Convention of States. Okay. I'd rather go with an Article 6, violation of the oath of office and removal. But what makes you
Nobody has a nerve to do that.
Here's my question. What makes you think that they're going to, they being Congress, the federal government, are going to follow any of the new amendments if they're not following the Constitution that we have?
Because they're following Constitution annotated, which I don't like either, but.
Well, that's what you're going to be changing.
Yeah.
But, they're not abiding by it now. They're manipulating it. And I wouldn't chance it. We don't trust the Congress as it is now, so I'm not going to
It's the accountability part is what we're missing. You know, not following the Constitution is accountability. Talking to Convention of the States and the leader of that, I'm like, well, why don't you add to the 17th Amendment, which is, if you don't know what that is, that gives the people the direct right to elect their senators. It used to be the states elected the senators. then they could be recalled at any time. The state legislature could recall your senators. I said, really, one line amending the 17th Amendment would bring accountability back, and it would put it in the hands of the state legislature. So if that, I'm not saying that this is my opinion, I'm not saying this convention is state's opinion, but if, say, I were to go, that's what I would push is at the very end of the 17th Amendment, give the states back the right to recall their senators. Then they have to start behaving, and it would add accountability. So there's the answer to your question is you need accountability, and in my personal opinion, that's how it can be done. Is that how it's going to be? I don't know. If they send me, that's what I would push for.
I think we've got the 10th Amendment, which is more better than the 17th.
Yeah, and I think the 10th Amendment needs to be exercised, and we need to take back control of our federal land. There's no reason that, especially the natural.
Elena, we're going to
Okay.
this off. Thank you, Jeremy.
All right. Hey, I'm getting better at politicking. It's stretch it out.
Hi. Jesse Mullen, Secretary of State.
Hi everyone, I'm Jesse James Mullen. For those of you who know my parents, Tom and Annie, it's probably not a surprise that they named me Jesse James. You might be surprised to know that the reason they named me that is because my grandparents said they'd kick him out if they named me Elvis. So I think it worked out pretty well for me. Really quickly, I want to take a brief aside. I live down the road, Powell County in Deer Lodge, which is part of this district now. I would hope that everybody here who is looking to represent me and to represent Powell County and our neighbors a little bit down the road, that they do keep in mind a few hundred people in that community do rely on our state jobs. We really need that to be a part of our community. We need good paying jobs for our prison employees, and we need people that can provide for their families. And that's done through state jobs in Deer Lodge. There's a few hundred people over there that really rely on that. Anyway, I grew up just south of the border in a little town called Newcastle, Wyoming, and I moved to Peaburg, I was 20 years old, and this was in 2004. I was the editor of the Phillipsburg Mail. I moved to a little trailer park in Peaburg back when they still had trailer parks over there. And across the pasture, and there's a little road, there are two houses. One of them was sort of like a 1950s craftsman, and a widower rancher lived in the house. He was a pretty conservative guy. And next door to him, and you probably know this house, it was like a split rail fence built by hand. And at the time, this is the early 2000s, there's a first grade teacher with dreadlocks down to his butt living in that place. And these guys were next door neighbors. He was a very liberal guy. But every Saturday morning, when I would go out on my little deck in my trailer, I could look across that pasture and I'd see these two guys having coffee together. It didn't matter that one of them was pretty conservative and the other one was pretty liberal. They were friends. They were neighbors, because they had shared Montana values. And what I mean by those shared Montana values is that they cared for their community, they cared for their neighbors, they cared for the members of their church that went to school with their kids. That's what Montana values are. Do you care for the people around you? Do you care for your community? And that's what it means to be a Montanan to me. And a big part of the reason I'm running for this office is because I think we have to get past this point of needlessly demonizing people from different parties. You know, everybody that's gotten up here to speak today, and I think a lot of you have done a pretty great job, but I hope you keep in mind that about 2/3 of this room here pretty consistently votes conservatively. Only about 10% of this room would even consider demonizing that other third. We care about our neighbors, and we care about the people that live in our community, and we are not willing to let partisan politics divide our communities. We have to stand up for each other, whether it's a state house race, a county commission race, a state senate race, or, like I'm running, for a Secretary of State, which manages our elections. It manages our business services office. Now, my focus in this race, as a businessman, somebody who built a company here in Montana, Now, really quickly, I would say I'm a third-generation Montanan, but my parents and my grandparents both moved here after me, so I don't think that really counts. But my daughter was born while I lived in Peaburg, and I live in Deer Lodge now. I built my company in this state. I came back here, bought 2 businesses from my parents with 3 full-time employees, and now we're at about 80 to 85 employees in 6 states across the Rocky Mountain West. And I was able to do that because I built this company in southwest Montana. That is the work ethic that I'm going to bring to our Secretary of State's office, something that is compassionate but also focuses on using Montana's resources, keeping those resources in Montana, and building an operation that serves all Montanans, regardless of what party they're from or who they support politically. This is the Secretary of State's office. Again, it manages our elections. It should be apolitical. It should not be a partisan office. And I will do everything I possibly can to make sure that I run that office with integrity and without concern to whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian. I had a great time talking to Libertarians up in Cascade County, by the way. We have to make sure that these state executive offices work for all of us, no matter what our background is, and I hope that I can earn your support. Any questions?
I got one.
Yeah.
I've been trying to run an ad in your paper since March 14th. We've had op-eds for Monica Trinnell and for Busey and for my opponent, Mr. Fitzpatrick, several times. They won't do an op-ed on me. In fact, 4 of your people quit because they won't do an op-ed on me. How would we expect you to be an unbiased Secretary of State when you can't manage a local paper to be unbiased? And I'm not the only one having that problem.
No, sir, that's a fair point. I appreciate you bringing that up. And I would prefer not to have this discussion here.
I'm sure you would.
But Penny quit because you harassed her for 4 days straight.
I can show you the email. She told me she'd get back with me Sunday night to finalize the article. And she didn't tell me.
I'm a businessman. I have accepted ads from...
I'll post all the emails on my website.
I have accepted advertisements from quite a few Republicans, from quite a few people of any office. Well, no,
we are going to move on to Jesse unless, really, Dave, you are out of line. We're not here to behave like that. And
I'm not trying to be out of line. I'm trying to raise a point that if we can't manage the paper, then how do we trust him as Secretary of State?
Well, one of our frequent columnists, and it's your opponent. He writes for our papers all the time. Ellsworth writes for our papers all the time. He's in there probably a couple of times a month. Becky, you write for the papers frequently. I mean, there are conservatives who have a presence in these newspapers because the newspapers need to be reflections of the communities they serve. My businesses wouldn't be around for 100 years and hopefully around in another 100 years if I tried to do anything overtly political with them. What we do with those newspapers is try to be as best a reflection of the community we serve as we possibly can. And in a community like Peaburg or Deer Lodge, that means most of what goes in there is pretty conservative. But at the same time, like I said earlier, 25 to 30% of that community is voting pretty progressively too. And so we try to make sure that those voices are seen and heard at least 25 to 30% of the time. We don't always meet that goal. I think anybody that reads our papers, especially if you have a Democratic background, will say, why are you running the conservative columns all the time? And my answer to that is because conservatives are a lot better at getting those to us than the Democrats are. But I think we do a pretty darn good job making sure that conservative voices are well represented in the newspapers. And we do go out there and try to work with those people to make sure that they are in the papers and that at times we try to get the other side reflected too. Any questions about the office or anything else? Thank you again.
So have I forgotten forgotten anyone with local or state? And then we'll move on. No, I know, we'll move on to the courts, Bowen. But, because I don't want to forget anybody. Okay, U.S. Senate, Michael Hummert.
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 You were pretty close, though.
Yeah, I'm trying.
No one else knows I'm running either. Thank you for coming out tonight and participating in one of the most important processes and responsibilities we have as a citizen of our country, to choose who will govern us. My name is Michael Hummert. I'm a Democrat. I'm challenging Jon Tester in the primary on June 4th. Whether you are a Republican, Independent, or Democrat, it's easy to see through Jon Tester's worn-out political ads about his third-generation heritage and his lies about protecting our ways of life. Most of us agree Jon Tester needs to retire. I have over 30 videos on my website and my YouTube channel telling you what I support and why. I will tell you what I think Montana values are. They are in our laws and Constitution: a balanced budget, term limits, self-reliance and freedom for all of our citizens. This is why I stand. This is what I stand for. I have no desire to control your life. I have a need to control our government, so our elected officials can no longer infringe on your rights and negatively impact your children's future. We must have a balanced budget amendment. Jon Tester voted no with every Senate Democrat to defeat a balanced budget amendment in 2011. Jon Tester was elected in 2006. Since then, he and his cronies have spent $30 trillion more than we have collected in taxes. That money was borrowed in every citizen's name. One of the two things that will happen with our $34 trillion national debt: we will pay it off or we will default. What do you think will happen if we default? Jon is adding as much as $3 trillion a year to our debt. The annual interest payment is over $1 trillion. Is this who you want managing your children's future? Our leaders told us walls were immoral. President Trump was fighting to protect our southern border. Jon Tester fought his effort to protect us. Then Jon said nothing for 3 years while President Biden opened the border, allowing over 9 million people to enter our country. That is more than 8 times the population of our state. Now it is an election year, and Jon suddenly thinks we need to close the border. Does he think we're fools? This is not a Democrat problem or a Republican problem. It's a citizen's problem. Jon Tester has proven he will not work with Donald Trump if he's reelected. Our Senate is evenly split, and that means our country cannot move forward for the next 4 years. Regardless who the president is, I will move the country forward because my loyalty is to the people, not the party. Nancy Pelosi's 84 years old, Chuck Schumer 73. Mitch McConnell, 82, Joe Biden, 81, and Donald Trump, 77. They are all proof that our geriatric citizens are the last to know when they should retire. It is for this reason I think we need a law that simply states no person will serve in the United States government past age 74. The risk is just too great, and it prevents younger, more qualified talent from serving. I also support term limits. We need an amendment restricting anyone from serving the United States Congress longer than 12 years. I grew up poor. My mother left our family when I was 8 years old. I watched my father struggle to keep his family together. He taught his 5 children the meaning of obligation, duty, and responsibility. I have strapped on a gun in defense of my country and stood in front of my ship as a first-line defense in hostile ports. I graduated from Gulf Coast Correctional Academy, retired from the United States Navy in 1996, and then moved to Helena, Montana. Graduated from the Montana Highway Patrol Academy. In 1998, I started a construction company, Montana Siding and Window Company, and I'm proud it's still operating to this day. It suited my personality. I always enjoyed helping people. I'm still friends with the first person I hired. My passion has always been studying human behavior and politics. As a society, we must stand against crime and provide for the safety of our families. It is my highest priority. Without safety in our streets, our culture and country will be lost. It is less than 5% of our population that are career criminals. If they cannot be reformed, they must be locked up. It sounds harsh until one of them attacks your family. If we do not address cybercrime, the internet will become useless when we can no longer trust what's on it. I discuss more issues like reproductive rights and climate change on my website. I don't have all the answers. As I researched these issues, I discovered that I believed things that were not completely true. I'm not married to any one idea. Being right is not as important as being correct. It makes it easier to have the courage to say I was wrong and move forward. I'm asking you to do the same. Question what you believe and why. On June 4th, I invite everybody to stop being Democrats and Republicans. Just be citizens and pick up a Democrat ballot and help me retire John Tester for the sake of our children. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? Thank you again.
Okay, District Court, Judicial District Number 3, Jeffrey Dahood.
Thank you. This is quite the turnout. My name is Jeffrey Dahood. I am an attorney in Anaconda. I have been an attorney for now 18 years. I am married to my wife, Melissa, back there in the back. And yes, she has to drive after I'm done with her car, and she has to move the seat way up. So we have 2 children. Our son Wade is 18. He is a senior in Anaconda High School. And we have a freshman, Brett, who is 15 years old. And it's been a joy to raise them in this community and in Anaconda. We live at Georgetown Lake. We actually live in Granite County. And so my experience as an attorney has brought me through all kinds of different legal avenues between family law, criminal law, consumer protection law, Social Security, disability, bankruptcy. I've been in both the state and federal courts. I've been in trials in both of those. I think that my experience in all of these different areas and in the courts has brought me to where I have fulfilled a dream of mine now to run for, and it looks like, since I'm not running against anyone, going to be your next district court judge. I've always wanted to be a judge. It has been a lifelong dream of mine ever since I decided to go to law school, and it was a pleasure to work with my father, Wade Dahood, for 15 years in Anaconda. I learned a ton from him. He was my mentor. He has instilled in me, I'm glad that the Constitution was brought up, because he was the author of the Bill of Rights of our Montana Constitution, and so it's near and dear to my heart, and I will fulfill the obligation of the judge to abide by that Constitution, abide by the U.S. Constitution, the laws of the state of Montana, and the laws that have been brought by the Montana Supreme Court. It will be my job to analyze the facts of cases, take cases. One thing I have definitely learned in my 18 years is no two cases are alike. Each case is unique. You have to take those cases, you have to take those facts, and I will apply those to those laws and fulfill my duty as a judge to make sure that those laws are abided by in Granite County, Powell County, and Deer Lodge County. That's what I plan to do. My philosophy is to abide by those and to apply those. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Yes?
As a retired court reporter,
yes.
Would you explain to these people how important jury service is?
Jury service is very important. One of the things that you have to understand is that as a citizen, one of the things that I was always asked when I wake up in the morning is, what have I done to pay my debt back to society? And that is one of the biggest debts you can pay back, is to serve as a juror. You're not going to make a lot of money doing it. You're not going to get a profound knowledge of the legal system from it, but what you will get is you will get a great experience, and you will provide a huge service to the community, because everybody tries to get out of jury duty until they actually become a juror.
once people become a juror, they've come into me and asked questions about cases that they've been involved in, why the judge ruled one way or the other. They have found it to be very interesting. So it is a huge, huge debt to society to be a juror and to serve on a jury. And it is a very important right that we have, because the person that has that case, it could be two citizens against each other. It could be the state of Montana bringing a criminal charge against somebody. That is the most important case to those folks that are sitting there being judged by their peers. And so those 12 people, when they come in, they perform a huge duty, not only to the community, but to those people, because that case can be the most important thing that's going on in their life at that time. So I appreciate that question. That's a very important duty. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much, and I thank you all for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity.
So, Bowen, Greenwood, Clerk of Montana Supreme Court.
Yeah. Hopefully the watch will help me not go too long. My name is Bowen Greenwood. I am your elected Republican Clerk of the Montana Supreme Court. And every time I tell people that, I always get one question right away. What is the Clerk of the Supreme Court, and why do we elect it? And so I'd like to tell you a little bit in answer to those questions. The Clerk of the Supreme Court, the simplest way to explain it is that we're like the front door of the Montana Supreme Court. Every appeal, every petition, every case starts in our office. And we make sure the rules are followed before any of that case ever goes before a justice. It won't surprise you that there are rules about how stuff gets before a judge. The idea is to make it fair, quote unquote. It wouldn't be fair if somebody could just call up the judge and say, hey, I want to sue Joe. And the judge listens to their case, listens to their argument, and says, you know what, you're right, Joe is wrong, Joe owes you money now. That wouldn't be fair. It's fair for Joe to even know that he's being sued, for him to get a chance to argue, and all the rest of that. So my office manages those timelines. We make sure the other party hears about the case. We make sure the other party gets a chance to respond. And it's really an opportunity to make sure that everybody in the state has equal access to their justice system. That's the great part of being the Clerk of the Montana Supreme Court. Every filing, whether it's from a Republican or a Democrat, whether it's from a politician or a prisoner, it all gets processed promptly according to the rules, every time. Now, the question of why we elect the office is the other half of that. And in the course of filing those documents according to the rules every time, I learn. I'm pretty dense, but not totally dense. And over the course of doing the job, you learn how the court works. You learn which justices think about which issues. You learn which rules are most effective. And as an elected Republican, I get to work right alongside Attorney General Austin Knudsen. When he comes to the Montana Supreme Court defending the pro-life bills that our legislature passes, I am right there with him, using my expertise about how the court works to explain, watch out for this question from a judge. Watch out for this justice. He's really sensitive about this. When an attorney I know of wanted to file a brief defending election integrity laws, like requiring ID to vote, that attorney had never been before the court before, and I was able to talk him through the whole process of filing his brief according to the rules. And that's why we elect this person. That's why we elect it with the party label, because they're going to be a part of the legal environment. They're going to be a part of the conservative work trying to change the Supreme Court. And that's why it matters that I get to serve as a Republican. That's why I'm endorsed by the Attorney General, Austin Knudsen, because of that work. That's why I'm endorsed by the Secretary of State, Christy Jacobson, because of that work on those issues. I spent a whole lifetime working on pro-life, pro-family, pro-religious freedom policy, and that's why I'm endorsed by the Montana Family Foundation. And since I don't see the hook yet, I'm just going to tell you one more thing about my job. Not everybody knows I think Mr. Dahood probably does, but not everybody else knows, that attorneys take an oath when they start their career. They raise their right hand, they repeat after me, and they swear to uphold the Constitution. And as the clerk of court, I administer that oath to them. So I swear in new lawyers, which was actually a huge disappointment to me, because when I ran for this job, I wanted to swear out lawyers. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bowen Greenwood. I'm the clerk of the Montana Supreme Court. I would love to earn your vote, and I would love to answer questions.
Okay, Mr. Greenwood, I have 2 questions. One, it might be a little promiscuous of me to ask. So,
Scandal.
The second one that I would like to ask is, I really don't know anything about the makeup of your office.
So, our office is in what they call the Missouri Justice Building. I'm directly across the hall from the Attorney General and directly downstairs from the Montana Supreme Court. And there are 6 of us who work in there. It's a lot less pompous than most state offices. We all work in one big open bullpen, filing papers together. You know, there's, God bless him, but I don't have the corner office that Austin does, and I don't have the private bathrooms that the justices upstairs do. We're just ordinary garden variety clerks. And again, what we do there is every day people are filing appeals at the Montana Supreme Court. Most of them are electronically filed by attorneys, and my coworkers, who are generally called appellate case managers, process those files electronically and move them through the rules process over the course of a long timeline. Yes. So I have all of the opponents. There are 2 Democrats, 1 Libertarian, and actually I have a Republican primary. And, you know, I'm not here to say a bad word about any of those folks. This is America. People are allowed to run for office, and obviously I don't deserve to have anybody run against me, but I wish them well. May they get all the good things God has coming for them. That being said, I was first elected clerk in 2018, and I'm just finishing my first term. And what I just talked about all that expertise I can use to help Republicans who are trying to change the Supreme Court, goes out the window the moment you elect somebody else. Now, I don't want to say that only an experienced person can do this job. You can learn, but it'll take you time. And we're going to have a couple of years there where Austin's people don't have an ally in the clerk's office that they otherwise would, where Greg Gianforte's legal counsel doesn't have the ally in my office that they otherwise would. So experience is a powerful benefit for me. It really is what I love about this job, being able to help other people follow the rules and succeed at the Montana Supreme Court. So, you know, I wish my other guys well. I have nothing bad to say about any of them. I personally think the best vote you can cast is for me. Thank you all very much.
So we had a couple of Supreme Court justice candidates committed, but I don't think they're here, Jerry O'Neill or Douglas Marshall. And did I miss anyone? Well, thanks again for coming. I think we all learned a lot about the candidates, and we'll do this again in 2 years.
Thank you.